Sure. In a different way, the Canadian Board for Harmonized Construction Codes is inviting people to participate in a public review of proposed changes to the 2020 editions of the National Model Codes. The proposed changes include, in the public review, addressing various codes, including the National Building Code of Canada. The review is running for a few more days until April the 29th. Shelley Petit has thoughts. Shelley is the chair of the New Brunswick Coalition of Persons with Disabilities. Good morning, Shelley. Nice to chat with you today.
Good morning, Dave. Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day indeed. Shelley, there is a national building code, but there's also provincial building codes. What do you think the benefit of a standardized federal code, or you know, it's kind of complicated. What's the benefit if there are also provincial codes, if there's a national code as well?
Well, through the work that I've been doing recently between the New Brunswick Coalition of Persons with Disabilities and my work with the Accessible Housing Network, I can tell you I've learned way more about building codes than I've ever wanted to know in my lifetime. Not fun, but what has happened through work with the national building codes, the provincial and territorial governments have decided that, why recreate the wheel? And they've all agreed to adopt upcoming national code changes within 12 to 18 months, depending on the province, although they are still allowed to tweak it. But they realized why screw around with this, because it allows for developers and construction workers to go seamlessly from province to province. And it allows people to use builds that, you know, like the book that's coming out, and adapt it from province to province based off a national code and not having to tweak things for each province.
Yeah, definitely some symmetry there and getting things aligned, which makes some sense, especially because building codes can get a little bit complicated. What about the accessibility regulations? What are some of the current regulations that are up for review?
Well, right now there are 3 that are up, and they're called one is called 1881, and it is right now currently based off the national code, and it's different in every province and territory, but it's mostly buildings of 4 or more units. We then have to have a certain percentage accessible following the Barrier Free Act. So in New Brunswick, it's 5%, not nearly enough. In Ontario, it's 20%. In Nova Scotia, it's 100%. This new code, because developers have clued in, they're starting saying, well, then I'm just going to build duplexes and triplexes so I don't have to follow the code. This new code wants to pass the accessibility regulations to all dwellings. So even a private residence, that the main floor is accessible or barrier-free, the same way they've done this in Australia and Denmark and several other countries. The other one is 1883, and that all dwellings must have at least one doorway and hallway entrance that is wide enough for a wheelchair. And the third one, which is really interesting and doesn't cost developers a cent more, is reachable controls. So raising power outlets, lowering light switches. So for able-bodied people, no difference whatsoever. But my mom is in a nursing home now with a broken hip because she was bending over to plug something in and fell and broke her hip, right? So it's not only good for persons with disabilities who may be in a wheelchair or walker or a little person, but it's also way better for our senior population. It's going to keep so many people at the hospital. And within that, it also says controls must be manageable with a closed fist. So we'll see lever door handles come in with this as well. Super simple, no difference to developers, no difference to able-bodied people, but a huge difference in terms of accessibility.
Outlets at a different height is not just beneficial for vulnerable folks. I would really appreciate that. Every time I have to change some plugs around my office is set up at home, I'm going under the desk and getting dusty and realizing how filthy I am around those outlets, Shelley.
And never fails. You bang your head on the desk, right? Never fails. You know it's there, but wham! Yeah,
it's a guarantee that I'm going to hurt something while I do that. There's no doubt. So this public review closes on April the 29th. What about future reviews? What's going to be considered?
There's another one coming up. They say near the end of May, start of June, and it's going to have 3 more codes for accessibility. And the one that I like the most is that all washrooms going forward will be reinforced walls. So then down the line, if you need to put grab bars in, you don't need to tear down the walls, put in the studding, rebuild the walls, you know, gyprock, mud, paint. It's just put the bars in. That's going to make such a huge difference for so many people. There's also within that a turn radius of 1 meter. And I forget the third one, something else to do with doors, but it's, so it's all just basic standardized things that are going to bring us so much closer to universal design. They do not cost developers more money, but they make housing so much better for everyone.
So what's the process? Again, 7 days left in this review, but another future review coming down the pipeline. What's the process to submit a comment and even maybe perhaps show approval of changes?
Yeah. So it's really quite simple. And what I can do is after this, I'll send you guys the link. Maybe you guys can throw it up, but you just go to the site and you click on, you could scroll down to accessibility. It's the second round of changes. You hit submit, submit a comment, pick 1881, which is the dwellings, put I approve of changes, submit, go to the next one, I approve of changes, submit, go to the next. It's so simple. You just say, I approve of changes. Developers are on their mask, but oh no, we can't do this. It's going to be hard. We don't like change. Well, too bad. We need that change, and that change just brings us to some equality. So let's all fight for it, because waiting until you need those changes is too late, folks. Ask for it now.
Like you said, Shelley, you may send along some of this information. I do have the website here for the Canadian Board for Harmonized Construction Codes. It is the website is a little bit wonky, but I'll try to get this out here. CBHCC-CCHCC.ca. A lot of acronyms there. We'll do that one more time. CBHCC-CCHCC.ca. A lot of C's there. You're going to wear out the C on your keyboard. Shelley, before I say goodbye to you, you heard some of those comments from Thursday's daily poll at Accessible Media on X, at Accessible Media Inc. on Facebook, all about Fredericton, the provincial capital of New Brunswick, only introducing Sunday public transit service in June. Shelley, I will confess once again that I was stunned to read that last week, that a provincial capital didn't have bus service on a Sunday. What's your reaction to that story and that policy change?
I moved to Fredericton 4 years ago, and I was stunned to hear that. They did not offer it before because it was listed in their contract apparently as a day of rest. The nice thing about that change to Sunday services within that, a lot of money. The budget for accessibility was doubled. They have more accessible transit coming online, and accessible transit will now be the same hours as regular transit. So it's helping able-bodied people. It is really making a difference for our community as well. Now, if only we could get transit to the rest of New Brunswick, it would be lovely.
Shelley, there's even one other good piece of news there for people with disabilities. Paratransit services on Sundays are coming into play in May. So even before the able-bodied folks get it. So for once, people with disabilities are at the front of the line.
Yes, wait till the public hears that and realizes it. They'll be upset. Oh well, they get to live like us for once and be an afterthought.
They'll be enraged. They'll be enraged for 3 or 4 weeks. Shelley, thank you for this. It's always a blast catching up. Have a great day.
You too. We'll talk later. Bye.
That's Shelley Petit.